So we've taken a look at the three main doshas and some of the main characteristics, and if we just take a moment to think about it, we can see how it applies to how our body uses these principles. Vata, which is more physiological, the flow of information made up of space and air, so dry, cold, intrinsically light, unpredictable, always changing like the wind. It's mobile, it's quick, changes rapidly and roughening. So we can say that anything to do with movement in our mind or body is said to be governed by Vata. So movement of thought, movement of activity, movement of food, circulation, movement of elimination. Anything that is moving in the body is said to be Vata. Everything that should be moving in a certain pace. It can move too quickly or too slowly, in which case it can lead to an imbalance. So as with all doshas, we want everything to be in balance. So we want Vata in the mind to be in balance where we are having creative thoughts. If it is too dull, we don't have any new thoughts. If it's too active, our minds will be racing and results in anxiety or insomnia. Vata tends to get overly abundant, so that when Vata becomes accumulated in the physiology, it will manifest often as excessive thoughts. Vata is responsible for activity, how quickly we move, how quickly we breathe, the movement of breath. The breath and the mind are intimately connected. As soon as breath stops, the mind stops. When the mind is agitated, the breath is agitated. When the mind is quiet, the breath is quiet. Movement of the breath is an important function of Vata. Vata governs the movement of food through the gastrointestinal system. Food goes into our mouth, Vata moves it down to our esophagus, gets into our stomach, and Vata is responsible for the churning. When it's ready, it moves through our small intestine and ultimately out the system through the process of elimination. So any movement throughout the entire digestive tract is a reflection of Vata dosha. And finally, it's responsible for the circulation of blood, the movement of the blood cells, plasma, and all the hormones and the substances contained. Travelling throughout and coming back, it's all within Vata. So if someone is having a problem with some element of movement in their system from an Ayurvedic perspective, it means they are having some problems with their Vata dosha. Either too much, which is the usual pattern, or sometimes too little. And then Pitta, metabolic, transformational, mostly in the digestive system. Fire in a little water. It's like a chemical fire, hot, moist, it's still light, intense, penetrating. Fluid, so stomach acids and bile, etc. It's pungent, it has a spicy effect when you taste it, and it tends to be sour. Almost all of the sour things that we put into our body are acids on some level. When you think about fire, there are two components, heat and light, and so in the physiology, Pitta is responsible for anything that has to do with heat and light. Heat being primarily transformation and metabolism, light being vision and coloration. Pitta is responsible for mental discrimination. When we are deciding, it's Pitta that is determining these finer discriminations. It's the light of consciousness shining on something that allows us to see the fine details that enable us to discriminate. It's responsible for the entire realm of visual perception, the transformation of light energy. Pitta is responsible for digestion, the digestion of food. What is food? It's a packet of energy and information. The 5 elements that becomes integrated with our energy and information, or 5 elements, and extracting the energy we need to carry out our daily activities. Digestion in Ayurveda doesn't just mean the digestion of food, but everything that comes through our senses. Pretty much anything in the body that has colour or pigment, it is governed by Pitta. So the blood, which is red and hot, is governed by Pitta. The muscles that have myoglobin and other pigmented substance is governed by Pitta. The bile, which is green, and stomach acid, which is yellow, has some digestive process and is governed by Pitta. And finally, Pitta is responsible for regulating our temperature. What an amazing thermostat we carry within us. It can be freezing outside and yet we maintain a core temperature of 37 degrees. It can be over 45 degrees outside, like it was for months when I worked in the Middle East, and yet we still maintain our core temperature. It's that Pitta element that turns on the fire element when it's too cold and turns down the furnace when it's too warm. Pitta governs that metabolic functioning that maintains a constant temperature. And then we have Kapha, structure, water and earth. It's heavy, mass, tissue, cold, flesh, viscous, so it flows more slowly than like honey or molasses. It's dense, it has a smoothing effect and moves slowly. The earth element provides structure and the water element provides lubrication. So Kapha is responsible for anything in the body that has to do with structure or lubrication. In the nervous system, Kapha is responsible for cooling off and nurturing. So it governs the production, the circulation of cerebral spinal fluid. It's responsible for the perception of taste. If the tongue is dried out, you won't be able to taste the food, so it needs to be moist to enable taste. It protects our digestive tract, it protects our stomach from the hydrochloric acid that we use to digest. And Kapha provides lubrication and mucus, which protects our respiratory tract. It tends to line our hollow spaces, keeping the fire and air elements from getting out of balance, doing their jobs too strongly perhaps. Think about what's happening in the stomach. We have talked about the presence of all three elements. The Pitta element is secreting stomach acid, a fiery coloured substance that is churned by the Vata element, so mixing it with the food. And the Kapha element is lining the stomach so that this fiery acid, this substance, doesn't erode its way through the lining and create an ulcer. Think about what's happening in the heart. The Vata element is what's pumping the circulation. The Pitta is the blood which carries the heat and nurturing energy throughout the entire body. And the Kapha supports the fluid around the heart to keep it from overheating. In every aspect of our bodies, all three of these doshas are present in different balances. So in one place there may be a predominance of Vata, some Pitta and less Kapha. In other place there may be another ratio. So it's not that in every place we have equal proportions of all three, but there are ideal proportions for each of us that, when out of balance, sets up that condition that can trigger disease or illness. Kapha is responsible for lubricating our joints. So as we get older and Kapha tends to be less in our system, then our joints get drier. They may start to crack as Vata also tends to increase as we get older. And so increases anxiety, skin gets drier, may get constipation as Vata dries out the digestive tract. So by knowing at different stages of life one dosha predominates, we can take action to counterbalance or re-establish a healthy state. And finally, Kapha is responsible for fat and water metabolism. So how much fat we hold in the system and how much water we hold in the system. So these are the basic physiological functions. We could take it deeper, as each dosha, which is composed of the elements, has within it 5 subdivisions. But for now it's worth knowing that Ayurveda is literally the science of life and really makes so much sense when you start getting into it. And for me, the only mystery is, if this was known over 5,000 years ago, well, why isn't it general knowledge now? Why isn't this taught to our children so we could all take responsibility for our own well-being and health? Although I guess we know the answer to that too. Anyway, I think it would be useful to do a little visualisation exercise together. So make sure you're sitting comfortably, and then if you'd like to, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Breathe in all the way into your abdomen. Then let it go. And once again, breathe all the way into your abdomen. And let that go. And now allow your mind to circulate your awareness throughout your body. Become aware that although you are sitting still, many things are moving within you. Your mind constantly experiences thoughts. Your nervous system is carrying impulses from one part of your body to another. As you are sitting, food is moving through your digestive tract. Nutrients are being absorbed through your colon. Your chest rises and falls as you breathe, bringing oxygen to every cell in your body. Feel the beating of your heart the pumping of your blood, the flowing of your circulation. An underlying force is guiding every movement in your body and mind. This force is known as Vata. It is like the wind. It carries things from one place to another place, and it is never still. Now turn your attention to the fact that even though you appear to remain the same, your body is changing at every moment. Transformations are occurring at every level of your body and mind. Your body is like a melting pot, converting your last meal into fuel for your organs and tissues. Your body is separating the useful from the non-useful. Your internal thermostat is regulating your body temperature. Though your eyes are closed, they are still digesting the sights and images of your life. Your liver is metabolizing toxins, and deep within your mind a subtle digestion has taken place. The impressions and experiences you absorbed yesterday are being transformed into meaning and understanding. The force governing all digestion and metabolism is warm, sharp, intense and penetrating. It is known as Pitta. As your digestive system metabolizes food into nutrients, and as your circulation carries these nutrients throughout your body, your cells and tissues are continuously rebuilding themselves. Within your body is a force that provides protection and stability amidst the changes that are occurring every moment. A slippery, lubricating substance protects your joints. Your brain and spinal column are encased in a nourishing fluid that cools, softens and protects your nervous system. The lubrication lining your air passages moistens and filters the air you breathe. This force, which soothes your body and mind with its cohesive and protective energy, is known as Kapha. Just take a few minutes to digest this information and consider how all this happens continuously without any conscious consideration or any effort from you at all. It's truly amazing. And then, when you are ready, you can bring your senses back and taking your time